Nope. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Part 2. With me is Milan Jeftik 1992 and Zazupar. And today we're talking about two things, one of which was very influential in my youth, and another of which is kind of fallen into obscurity and probably for good reason. But today we are talking about Pink Floyd The Wall and its sort of weird sequel-y, not really thing, the Final Cut full video EP, which is far too much to say, so I'll just be calling it the Final Cut music video. Gentlemen, quick reactions. Let's start with Milan's, so I'm really curious what he has to say.
The Wall, with The Wall, I watched the film, and it's free online on YouTube, actually. And Ian, when I first heard about it, Ian was telling me about it, saying that, Milan, you gotta be careful. Are you sure you can watch this? Because this has been said to have given schizophrenics a really bad time.
Yeah,
And
it has.
I know, and
I had that same thought when I was watching it. So
the
I was
thing with
actually,
me-
Milan, for once, I was concerned about you.
Oh, thank you. Well, the thing is, you shouldn't have, because I completely understood the whole film, and it wasn't really terrifying, but I understand how less experienced schizophrenics could have had a violent reaction to this film, because it does employ a lot of. Basically, this movie, it's basically a story told by the subconscious. It does make sense, but the weird thing, the really interesting artistic um, thing about this movie is that it's almost a completely dialogue, less film. There's no real
It's a
dialogue.
90-minute music video.
I know
Yeah,
it is,
really,
but
it really is just an hour and 45 minute, or hour and 35 minute, music video.
I know, but basically it tells a story without relying on dialogue. It's a purely visual medium. It's like
Mm-hmm.
what film could have become if talkies weren't invented, and they just employed music to tell the story and visuals. And it's just a really fascinating look, and it's basically, there is a story to it. There is an arc for a character, but it's a very, for those who aren't really used to this type of filmmaking or this type of storytelling, I'm pretty sure we'll get a little bit lost. But basically,
It does jump around in time a lot.
oh yes.
Yes.
But I'm just gonna tell you about one of my favorite scenes. Well, there's a lot of scenes in this movie that I really like, but the one that I really like is basically, there's a scene where a little, dove flies away from a cat, and it's just flying, and then all of a sudden it becomes animated, and then it just explodes into blood and guts, and then the music starts, and it's just a giant black hawk made of metal starts flying. There's just this iron hawk starts flying over England, over London, and just dives down and grabs a giant chunk out of the countryside, leaving a gigantic crater of blood. And then it just flies up into the air. And of course, this is the metaphor for how the Germans bombed London back in the war, because the main character is reminiscing about his childhood as a kid, and he losing his father in the war. But basically, the giant iron hawk just basically flies over London, and then it just flies over flies, and just weird gas starts emitting from it, and it creates this giant, huge, disgusting, fat monstrosity that looms over London with big glowing eyes, and it stretches its arms, and then it turns into this weird metallic gateway that just shoots just a never-ending stream of planes out of its open belly, and then we shoot to these incredibly hideous subhuman naked creatures with gas masks for faces, and they crawl and they escape from the incoming terror, and they go into the sewers, and they hide out in the sewers, and just all the, just, you can see just a never-ending slew of bombers. And then they all turn into little white crosses, signifying the death of all these many soldiers. And then a skeleton dressed in a English army uniform just slowly collapses. And then there's the shot of the Union Jack, and it's all the white and blue pieces fall away, leaving the red crucifix shape, and it's on a pole. And then the red from the red crucifix, from the red cross shape, bleeds down onto the pole, creating a bloody red crucifix. And there's another shot of the iron hawk that kind of lands and slowly becomes this inhuman, metallic, spiky structure. And it looks...
Can you, Milan, can you wrap up, please?
Okay. And basically, the dead soldier gets back up, and through the decimation, the little animated dove comes flying past, and it turns into little red crosses. The corpses turn into little red crosses, and then there's another shot of the big red crucifix, and the blood from it flows into the gutter. It's a really good scene.
Never in my life have I ever wanted more drugs than right now.
No, but like, I don't know. My favorite thing about this movie, visually, is impossible to tell. But probably how... I can't remember the song off the top of my head, but he's sitting... obviously, the entire thing's a hallucination because he's already destroyed the apartment. And he's sitting in his chair watching his television when you see a woman's shadow start to...
Oh, yeah.
And it turns into a
monster, and it chases him around the room. That was probably my favorite visual scene. Because it just indicates how out of control he is. But as far as character scene goes, it's during the Nazi-ish rants with the walking hammers, very iconic. And it's the Run Like Hell song that came on. It's the song that came after Run Like Hell. And he just screams for it to stop, and he's sitting there crouched in this corner of a toilet booth, and it's so tragic to think of someone just so overpowered by what's going on in their head that they can't. They have to yell and scream and just beg for it all to quit. Like, I've been on the physical side of pain where, it seems like it's very much the same thing, where I've been in physical pain that I can't do anything about. Like, even taking drugs doesn't do anything about it. And I'm just screaming at my body to stop feeling this. And it seems like the exact same thing, only mentally, which is incredibly worse.
That thing about what you just said, that really hit home for me. I really had that a few times when the schizophrenia got really bad. Just that feeling of like there's things in your brain that just will not stop. It's like having this weird monster just ripping at your brain with its long fingernails, and it hurts, and every time it scratches your brain, just painful memories and just horrible thoughts flow out, and you just want it to stop, but you can't, because it will stop eventually, but you don't know when. And it's just this never-ending slew of pain. And it's not physical pain, it's psychological pain. But
Bill, why don't you give some input? You've been quiet so far.
Sure. I have heard about this film very notoriously throughout my entire life. And it's funny because you go about your life hearing about this movie from people who you would expect would have seen it, since they're talking about it in such a way of like, excuse me, reverence, but also kind of like, oh, that movie. But none of them had ever actually seen it, I found out, over the course of time. And one particular example today was my mother. When I was actually about to put the movie on, she was like, oh, what do you watch? I'm like, oh, doing a podcast tonight on Pink Floyd's The Wall. And she's just like, The Wall? I heard that movie. She starts telling me what she's heard, and I'm just like, wow, this is going to be interesting. And the movie definitely lived up to its reputation. And, wow, it was quite an experience. And I'm going to say this, I don't know if you guys are going to get angry with me, but let me try and defend myself after I say it. I enjoyed this film more as an experience, more than I did as a movie, and I suppose that's kind of the point. Like, as you guys were saying, it does tell a story. The bare essence of what makes a movie is in here. But it's still a lot closer to a music video that is going over a nightmare or reminiscing, so to speak. Like, the idea I got from this film, in terms of like what the structure was, it felt a lot more like your life flashing before your eyes right before you're about to die.
Mm-mm.
That's what I got from it. But there were points where I felt very like I felt a little bit alienated from it. Like there were points where I felt like I was inside these visions. Like the we don't need no education scene. I was so into that. And not because
And actually, that's the scene and that's the song that kind of, as much as I hate to say it, makes this movie popular amongst the wrong crowd.
yeah.
Because I had a friend in high school, and I'm going to use the word friend loosely, who I convinced to listen to The Wall, the album version of this. He goes, "Oh, actually, this is one of my favorite songs. Only I say we don't need no edumarcation." You're a fucking moron.
Fair enough.
Edumarcation? What?
He mispronounced it on purpose just to sound like more of an idiot. But anyway, like the thing is, that song, I mean, it's very much, you know, the, oh, we don't need to be in school, but it's not for the reasons of I don't like school. In that, it's for the reasons, or for the character of Pink, and that's who the character is in this, by the way, Pink Floyd, as a person, as opposed to a band. For the character of Pink, that whole song is about how he is going crazy. He is mentally disturbed, and the teachers at school are making it worse.
Yeah, I mean, these teachers are not just normal teachers in that they're just trying to give you an education. Like, most kids hate school. They might not like their teachers as people, but it's usually just because they don't want to put the work in to learn these certain things. But
I have
this
a lot to say
was
quite a bit
so
about this.
different. It was, you know, these teachers were basically abusing these kids, so it was very different in that way. This entire, or the majority of this film, was very much so a criticism of the higher ups of government and such. Like the part with the
I'd say the final cut's more of that than this is.
yeah,
This
but at least the first part of this is because the we don't need no
oh yeah,
education
the
scene.
first act definitely.
Oh yeah, that's what I was mainly saying. And that, and also the scene where the soldier is loading his gun, and the song is talking about how he wanted to pull his forces out, but they won't let him.
I actually may mention something right here. This has that song and the other one where the kid puts on his father's uniform. Those are not in the album, and I think you'll agree with me. Those two fit much closer to the tone of the final cut.
I'll agree, because the
Yeah,
cut is
that's
a
the thing.
lot more focused on. There is a primary figure in it, but it's not so much about him as it is about the society in which he lives in.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that because Roger Waters did everything on the final cut, as opposed to David Gilmour and Nick Mason had some I think that's right. Had some input on The Wall here and there.
Well, the Dave Gibson
Um,
guy directed it.
Well, no, I'm talking about the band members as far as the albums go.
Okay.
the thing about the I don't need no education part of the movie.
Oh, sure.
I have a lot of British friends, and they're just, or even in like British media, that they're, you know, the classic British high school is basically that. It's not like it's a criticism. I guess there are points
The
of that.
class British high school is a meat factory?
Basically, yeah,
Whoa!
emotional meat factory. But let me just describe this scene for people who don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
No, hold on. If this is such a visual movie, to describe the scenes is going to take forever.
I
We're
know,
going to
it's
have
funny.
to-
It's
Anyone
hilarious.
can do it. It's Milan. But
Yeah.
I think just for the sake of keeping up this as like a podcast,
I swear, I'll do it like really quickly. I promise. I'll do it real quickly. Okay, basically, the kid's the main character as a kid. He's being abused by his teachers, not sexually, of course. Just the teachers are being cunts.
well,
and then basically, it turns the children slowly go through this weird machine where they come out the other side as these, expressionless, identical creatures whose faces look like naked mole rats, and basically they start goose stepping through this horrible, rusting, corrugated iron maze directed by the teachers, and then they get put on this walkway that leads them to fall into this weird thing, and it turns out it's a meat grinder, and then everything goes fucking ape shit, and they just destroy the school, setting it alight, throwing the teachers into the fire.
Yeah.
I was disturbed by that. I mean, that guy definitely deserved it, but I was like, oh my god, these kids are gonna burn someone.
Actually, funny note, and that's the thing is they don't do it. It's all in Pink's head, which is even more
I know, but I was just visual imagery of it.
worth noting. The teacher that the main teacher that hit Pink, it's the same actor as the one we see continually through the final cut.
Oh, that makes sense.
Really?
I never put that together though, but that does make sense.
No, actually, it's not the same character.
No, but he looks like him now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, Milan, what do you want to say about the no education scene? And just for the real quick, just for the record, guys, we're going to have assumed you've seen this movie because so much of it is visual. We're gonna have a hard time getting through this if we don't talk about it, assuming you've seen the scenes.
Yeah, and it's definitely worth watching, and it's as Ian and Milan mentioned, it's on YouTube for free, so definitely go check it out.
We'll link it in the in the blowjob bar if you guys want to see it.
There it is. There it is.
No, that's what it's called. That's what Shane Dawson.
It's got to come out once, Ian. It's got to come out once.
Shane Dawson doesn't need to be the one that determines YouTube etiquette. Why can't we call it the doobly-doo? That's
okay.
right.
It's in the doobly-doo. Okay. Basically, you can find the link in the doobly-doo.
Why can't we call it No Man's Land?
No, we're gonna call it the doobly-doo because I like John Green's version. That just is silly.
Doobly-doo.
You don't say.
Okay. Basically, the thing about this, the movie is basically, it starts out with the boy, with Pink's father getting killed in a fire bombing, in the war. And basically, the first beginning of the film is just him reminiscing about his childhood growing up without a father, and he goes for his stuff. He's finds his hat, his clothes, his some of his old bullets, and then he goes to a playground. But
no, actually, you're mixing up the scene.
That was significantly earlier.
Oh, okay. I'm leading into the no school. What I think of the no school.
Well, just say what you think of the no school thing.
Okay, basically, it's just what any sort of kid dreams about. Is this school is turning me into a faceless, naked mole rat creature, and the only way I can, and it's gonna grind me into this boring adult. The only way I can escape from this never-ending hell is by destroying the school, burning it down, and sacrificing the teachers to Cthulhu.
Yeah,
I'm sure
actually,
that's exactly what Roger Waters had in mind, was Cthulhu.
Yeah, and it's actually one of those interesting things about this.
What, Cthulhu?
No. Milan mentioned that he was like looking for he searched for this, or he was about to mention, I should say, when he went to the park and he started like following around the man that was hanging out with all the children.
Yeah.
That was so damn tragic because here we have this kid and he's just looking for a father in his life. And just every male role model he could ever have that we see, at least, is just, either turns him away or is just an absolute shit to him, like the teacher.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's what you see throughout this entire movie is he keeps looking for something and he can't find it. He's looking for some lighthouse, some point of order in his life that'll like teach him where to go, and it's why he begins to spiral into such a tragic figure by the end of this movie.
Oh wow, yeah, definitely.
Totally.
I mean, the part where like he passes, I suppose he passes out, and all those people like come in trying to force him up and giving him drugs, and I was like, that is so fucked up. They're treating him like he's a machine.
No, that's happened. That happens today. That happens.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Rihanna.
What?
Rihanna.
I think so. Yeah.
That is just so fucked up.
Yeah, but I mean, people paid concert tickets, Bill. Never. If you were at a concert, or remember this moment. If you were at a concert and you ever complain that the person is taking forever to get to the stage,
then don't go around and destroy your hotel room before you go on stage.
Well, that's not why he was passed out.
Well,
that's
I know, but still.
Well, no, that's the thing is, in this movie, he clearly has schizophrenia to the point where he eventually goes catatonic.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so weird. Milan, let me ask you, how accurate a portrayal of a schizophrenic person do you think this movie is?
Surprisingly enough, I really did see this as like, wow, this person really knows what schizophrenia is like. And I'm like, that's really impressive. Either they did the research or they actually had a person with schizophrenia to have to take notes from. Because some of this, like,
kind of the second one. Pink in this movie is based on Syd Barrett and parts of Roger Waters' past. Syd Barrett, also being my namesake,
Indeed,
was the original lead singer for Pink Floyd, but he went insane on the road and started doing really odd things, like putting a bunch of makeup on his face before they went on stage, like a shockingly large amount to where it was very, very thick on his face, and then it began to melt on stage in the lights. So when they're dragging him out of the hallway in that scene and his hands are melting and his face is like this, that was taken from from Syd. When he shaved off all his hair, including his eyebrows, that was taken from Syd.
I see.
That happens when a person reaches that level of self-destruction or just that level of, it's a bad thing, because I have known people that who are at that level of just craziness, and I've been at that level of craziness like a few points. It's some of the shit is just really, it hits home, man.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you this, guys. Would you believe if I told you that Roger Waters' father died in World War II?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, he did. And that's like Roger Waters created this character, blending the activities and the descent of his friend Syd, and of course his own father's death, or his own father's. Yeah. I don't know. I find this movie does an amazing job of cutting together an accurate picture of a descent into madness, because so often in film it gets brushed aside as like, oh, he saw something bad happen, so now he's crazy.
Yeah, oftentimes it happens off screen.
Yeah.
They'll be taken, like it happens in Hamlet, both on the on-screen versions and in the play. None of it happens like on stage for the matter of the play. Whenever something happens to a character that drives them into insanity, it happens off screen. So I found it very interesting because we very rarely get that on film before. This movie was basically, imagine the scene that would take place off screen where a character has gone insane. That's this movie. And I found that very interesting, and I was very enveloped in that sense of it.
So, Bill, you said something that I found interesting. You said it works as it is a film in the barest sense, but it's more of a 90-minute music video. I feel music videos can tell stories when they want to.
Oh, I'm not saying this does not tell a story. It definitely does. My point was that it's not a conventional film, and I don't think anyone will disagree with me that way. My point was more of, it works better as an experience than it does as a traditional story. Again, a traditional-esque story gets told in an untraditional way, but I feel like that untraditional way kind of takes over the story, and that makes it an experience in my mind.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I meant by that, and that's not a problem. I'm not criticizing in that regard. The thing is,
but you could say all stories are experiences.
No, but that's not my point. My point is that the way in which the story is told took over the actual story. And I'm not saying that the story got, shafted in any way. I'm saying that the very unorthodox and strange way in which Roger Waters and the production team told this particular story was what is paid attention to the most. It's the camera angles. It's the overlays, the animation. It's just it all really takes over.
I have to
And
disagree because it all works. I think it all blends together quite well. But I'm insane, so that's just me.
well,
I'd have to take Milan's side on this. And Milan, I know you're like jumping around your room screaming right now, because
Yeah,
this so
totally.
rarely happens. But I have to agree. The fact is, our character is a rock star, so that really helps. So the rock music really helps bring you into his experience in a way. This thing is, I feel like you kind of go on this journey with him, and you go a little crazy watching this movie because you're trying to figure out how he's feeling and what's going on with him. So you're trying to figure, what if I went through this? What if I did this? And I don't know, I feel like the movie is an experience, sure, but I don't think it only works as an experience. I think it's still good after the fact.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's basically the eventual evolution of the silent film, except there's music to it.
yeah,
It's-
I didn't have that experience with it. I felt like it worked better as an experience, and I'm not saying I couldn't rewatch it, not at all, but I'm saying that it. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that like I enjoyed it. Okay, comparing it to something I'm familiar with. Comparing it to a traditional film, like say, like The Dark Knight. Like I suppose some people will argue that's not a traditional film, but it's a movie. It tells its story in a different way, where again it uses dialogue and all that, but there's a way in which the film is presented that makes it more of like a movie. And this was very different to me. It felt very different from something like The Dark Knight or really any other film I'd ever seen before. And again, I'm not criticizing it. The thing was, I'm not used to that sort of thing. So I felt like it worked better as like I'm going on like an acid trip with this guy and I'm seeing his life through this kind of fucked up lens. And I enjoyed that ride for sure.
Yeah, so you're just saying that if you're going into it expecting a traditional film, you're going to be vastly disappointed.
Not disappointed. You're going to be very shocked, is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I don't
So
know
you're
if
not
that's
saying you didn't like it. You're just saying.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I'm not saying that this is up my alley, really, but it doesn't have to be. I don't know if I would go and rewatch this tomorrow, but I definitely enjoyed it. As I said earlier, I'm glad I watched it. But I think that if you go into it expecting, I'm going to watch a movie, I don't think it works that way. You have to kind of be a little bit prepared for it.
Okay.
I think having the stigma attached that I mentioned earlier is one of the few cases where that's a good thing.
All right. Fair enough. Milan, you were about to say something, weren't you?
Yes. Goodness, what was it? Goodness. Shit. It's on the tip of my tongue. You guys keep talking, I'll remember it.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't know. I find this movie. I've always been a major Pink Floyd fan. They're the first band I ever really got into. Besides a band I'm not going to mention because everybody will laugh at me.
No, we want to laugh. Tell us.
The Wiggles. The Wiggles.
I was in 8th grade. It was 2005, and American Idiot was really popular.
Oh, Green Day?
For a while. I still like a couple
Yeah,
of their
go in
songs.
the corner. No, I'm kidding.
I still like a couple of their songs.
No,
yeah.
they're not. I don't understand this like thing of like, oh, they're the worst thing ever. There are worse bands out there.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Pink Floyd was like the first band I ever really, really got into, and they still to this day remain my favorite band. And if you couldn't tell that by all the Pink Floyd t-shirts I'm wearing in previous videos, then you, sir, or madam, need to work on your powers of observation.
Indeed.
But anyway, I love this movie on just multiple levels, so it's hard for me to say objective things about it. But since we're kind of getting into a little bit of negative territory,
I just remembered something.
Go ahead, Milan.
Basically, I don't. Did any of the Pink Floyd gang had a fear of women?
Not necessarily, but they.
Because there's
Huh.
because there's a lot of really because like the scene that Ian mentioned, where the woman's shadow becomes this weird snake, vulture hybrid, and then it turns into a vagina with teeth. And there's a lot of scenes where just like the implement of the visual of sex and terror kind of interbleed.
Like with fighting flowers.
Oh yes, and the weird thing about that, the fighting flowers is another example. But there's a weird scene where basically the giant wall gets erected, and it's you know that scene, you know, where
that's another song. Actually, that was another song that was added. Let me just throw that in there.
And basically, you know that the whole face screaming out of the wall, and this. It's just really weird. Like it's a consistent thing. I'm not being crude. It's just the constant theme of the monster vagina is implemented in basically any sort of animated part of the movie. But
yes, I agree.
I don't know. Is it like did one of them have a problem with their mother? Is there some sort of a Freudian explanation for this?
Maybe, I don't know. That part I don't know about. Obviously, I think that might just be more of a character thing, because obviously this kid grew up looking for a father figure, and he was just constantly being smothered by his mom, right?
Yeah. There's an interesting scene that I kind of thought was really cool. You know the scene where he's sitting in the bathroom stall and he says, "I want to go home"?
Take off this uniform and leave the show. I'm waiting in the cell because I have to know, have I been guilty all this time?
That's the one. And there's this strangely vagina-shaped thing that comes in later in that part of the movie, and it's like trying to suck him in. I kind of felt like that particular shot was like, that's home for you. That's the original home for you. That's where you start.
No, that was his mom. Like that was during the trial. The prosecutor with the big buttocks.
That also looked like nuts.
The big buttocks says, call the schoolmaster, and the schoolmaster is the hammer, which is another symbol that kept popping up. And the schoolmaster testifies against him. Then his wife testifies against him, and she's one of the vagina monsters. With the she turns into the creature with the fiery hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you little shit, you're in it now. I bet they'll throw away the key. You should have talked to me more often than you did, but no, you had to go your own way. Have you broken any homes up lately? Yeah, that's his wife, the redhead. And then there's that plane that comes in, and guess what your mom did when you were a kid to try to get you to eat? It's a plane. So, yeah, it's the plane that comes in, and it turns into a vagina monster.
Yeah, I found that really interesting, and yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, Milan, because it's something that stuck out to me at one point, but I kind of got lost in it. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out.
I think it's basically the mother asking him to go back into the womb, but since the vagina has teeth, the symbolism is kind of saying that the womb is a toxic place. So the worst place you can go is back into the womb.
Well, in this very, I'm not going to say testosterone-dominated film, but in this movie that's about trying to be a man, or a character that's trying to be a man and just having such a hard time thinking and being an independent person, can you really be surprised that he feels that way?
Not really.
Like, given his background, it makes sense, for sure.
I don't know. Alright, so vagina monster, check. I was wondering when we'd get that one out of the way.
You knew I was gonna bring it up.
I'm sorry, what?
You knew I was gonna bring that up eventually.
No, I was asking what Bill was saying.
No, I was saying there's a check. Ian has a checklist with just like sort of things like that on it: vagina monsters, poop monsters, all these different things, all these different kinds of monsters.
Vagina monsters, walls, drugs. All right, let's talk about Milan's favorite topic, just since we're on sex. All right, this is my favorite scene in the movie, just for the music cue. When he's got the groupie in his hotel room, and he's completely disinterested in her, and then loses it, and just destroys the entire fucking apartment.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that scene?
I really kind of liked it because it was just, he just couldn't give a fuck about her, and just this scene is mirrored kind of sort of with his wife when he's just sitting there watching TV. He just couldn't be bothered with this woman, and then he just kind of, it almost comes to a boil where he just like, the apathy becomes poison, and he just has to do something to get out of this rut. So he just gets up and he just, does the greatest, the one thing all rock stars are known for, just destroys his room, and then they have sex.
No, they didn't have sex, Milan.
Oh,
That was a flashback to his wife.
Oh, did it? Was it? Oh, that's odd, because I don't know, just it's
Pretty sure she ran.
Yeah, I mean, he threw, like...
He threw two TVs at her. I would run too.
Where do you even get those? It's like Master Shake.
Yeah, where the hell did he pull two TVs on? And one of them was on, even though it clearly wasn't plugged in.
That's a couple of the problems with it. This movie has a couple different continuity mistakes like that. I don't know.
Maybe it's not really continuity mistakes, that it's just the TV, the feed is always on whether you want it to be or not.
Well, I mean, we do see that the war movie is even in his mind in one of the scenes where it just goes completely hallucination and, like, turns into the kid again. So that's not a terrible argument, Milan, that, like, the TV's on and it's playing this war movie where they're talking about getting over a wall, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just playing this war movie at all times, and he's got no escape from it, and he keeps changing the channel because he's trying to get away from it, and all he can get is war and news and, the wall and news and shit like that.
His background and his mental state are almost kind of, they won't leave him alone. And that can be seen as a part of it as well. It's just like, no matter what he does, he can bury himself in drugs, he can bury himself in sex, but no matter what, he can't outrun. He's got to face it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
This movie was really fascinating in that regard, in that we can get all these different things about this character without, as Milan was pointing out earlier, with little to no dialogue, and the little dialogue that's there, it
doesn't really serve the character.
Yeah, it's just kind of noise. You really can't hear it because there's music playing and the sound effects going, and even when you listen in on it, it's not very necessary to the story.
There's also a weird kind of. Go ahead.
How that was expressed.
There's also a weird kind of anti-capitalist vibe I get from this movie, because at some point the wall kind of destroys a church. It goes through the church, and the bricks from that church form this weird kind of shining neon Las Vegas building. And also at one point the vagina flower turns into ice cream.
I didn't see that part.
Didn't see that part myself either.
It did. Look, it just turned, for a brief second, it turned into ice cream with freaking cherries on top.
Oh, yes, okay, now I know what you're talking about, yeah. Okay.
It's just awesome I can say these things in context.
I don't sound crazy for once, because they actually happened.
Totally. You have no idea how great this is.
Probably was so excited to review this movie because he finally gets to, like, put his vivid way of describing things to the ultimate test.
Oh yeah, I mean, really,
totally.
This was more of a challenge for Milan. That's why I was worried about him, guys. Not that he'd have an episode, just that he, like, wouldn't be able to live up to it.
Oh, totally, man, it's amazing.
He would be so intimidated by it that he would just go into a catatonic state. He's like, I can't describe it.
Dude, I had
Romanian, I don't know, but okay.
Dude, I had similar experiences to this, and this is where it really hit home. I can hear myself out.
Yeah, Bill too.
Fuck! God damn it.
Can you mute your microphone before you go?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Tech difficulty real quick.
Oh,
Anyway.
some of this stuff is just like the basic, the crazy shit flying at you. It's one thing, but just the thing about madness is, it's not like how Bill mentioned. It's not like like an instant thing. You see your parents get shot and you're instantly crazy. It's more of it's a gradual process. It's you're being ripped away from sanity gradually by your own, by your own reasoning skills or your own lack of reasoning skills. It's just this slow ripping away, and you're just falling back into madness. I hate it when movies have that kind of, it's like, okay, now he's crazy now. No, it takes months, years to go crazy. And then when you're there, it's so much harder to get sane again. Because you have to, because if you don't know yourself and you don't know, that's interesting, because this movie, I know you might not understand it, not agree with me on this, but it uses really kind of, understandable iconography for mentally ill people. It's
How so?
like, the evil vagina, the Great Wall, separate,
Oh no, those are very iconic.
Oh, I agree. I definitely think there's a lot
yeah.
of physical objects that are standing in for psychological issues in this
totally,
movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie could work without them, and I think that it uses them to great effect. Like the wall itself, is very effective and a continuing symbol throughout the film.
Well, I mean, that's throughout the album. I mean, Another Brick in the Wall is the most well-known track from this. The Wall has been around for a while, and it's still probably the best symbol for not schizophrenia necessarily, but antisocial issues in general, I'm going to say, because they're just so... It's hard to really pin down what I want to say here.
It's a very iconic, it's really an iconic visual cue for just the isolation and the having something stand in your way that's just completely unassailable, just something.
Your madness isolates you.
Exactly.
Remember the scene? You guys remember the scene too? Is there anybody out there?
Oh yeah.
Where it's just him on the wall and he's trying to climb it, and there's nothing that can help him get up it, and there's no one on his side. We don't even know if there's anyone on the other side, but he's just completely alone, and he's sitting there, and he's got no escape whatsoever. And I mean, that's the point at which it's most obvious. But if you look in this movie, a lot of the times where you can see the bricks being built, as it were, he's near a wall. The other time that really pops in my mind is when he's trying to call his wife and she's having an affair.
Right near a wall.
He's sitting next to a wall. It's tragic. The last time when the last brick is in, as it were, he's in that bathroom stall, hunched against a wall.
And how small is it? It's fucking cramped.
It's a cell. He's alone. He's got nothing, and there's that security guard that looks in on him, and it triggers another event where he's, seeing things, and it's just completely removed from reality. And that gets me to something I kind of wanted to talk about.
One thing before we move on, sorry guys, just from, experiences of madness, this idea of this isolation, it's sometimes when you're insane, it's not that you are literally isolated. There are people out there who try to, to help you out and to give you their hands, but you're just in that state of personal, personal regression, that you cannot see all the people who are trying to help you, and so you feel like you are completely alone, and all the people who are trying to help you just come off as shadows that are not really there.
Mm-hmm.
So you're kind of fucking yourself up in that way.
Okay. What I was going to ask about, so the end of this movie, we see the wall literally explode.
Can I say something quick?
Sure.
When that wall, and that sounded resentful, just saying. When that wall exploded, my computer froze. It was so epic. It just like the wall exploded and then my computer froze and it made this weird like high pitched like "dah" sound, and I was like, oh my god, Pink Floyd broke my computer.
Oh god, do not listen to Wish You Were Here. Um,
I just thought that was awesome. It snapped right back, but it was hilarious.
okay.
I had to make sure it wasn't part of the movie because my computer does that sometimes. I was like, knowing this movie could be part of the movie, but it wasn't.
Okay. Can I talk now?
Yes.
Sorry,
You are permitted to
God.
talk.
Say
Okay,
your
so
stupid
You are
bullshit.
permitted to talk.
Where the part where the wall explodes and the next thing we see is just kids picking up bricks. And the last thing we saw before that was the judge sentencing Pink to be exposed before his peers. What exactly do you think happened to him?
I truly don't know.
Something fucked up.
Really? I don't know, I think that's the point at which he was just completely exposed to the world, that like...
Well,
What I think happened is the security guard opens the stall door, and the wall exploding is what doctors saw at the hospitals. Just Pink's madness on full display for everybody, and the children picking up parts is just a less violent image. It's like the one, like Bill said something that we usually see someone go crazy off screen and then come back on screen. I think this is, we see Pink go crazy on screen and then we don't see what happens to him off screen.
I think the children picking up the bricks is kind of this whole new generation of, grabbing their own, bricks to make their own walls.
Oh, I agree, but I'm talking about Pink's character.
Well, let me ask you guys this: what's one of the primary things that can lead to a rock star or any kind of pop star? What usually leads to their career ending, or their popularity becoming?
Usually it's drugs.
What is it?
Usually it's drugs.
Okay, aside from that, because some of them use drugs their entire career and they just keep it in the dark. Usually, it's the public knowledge of these skeletons they've got in their closets. Oh, they had an affair with someone 2 years ago. Oh, they did drugs. Oh, they killed someone 10 years ago. It's usually the public becoming aware of a skeleton in their closet that makes them go, oh, I don't want to be a fan of them anymore. And I feel like maybe that's what happened to him. The press got a hold of what happened. When the security guard looked in, I suppose that could be seen as the public finally getting a real look at who this guy really is, behind the curtain, so to speak. And I suppose that's his fault. That's his wall exploding. And while the wall can be interpreted as something that's blocking you from the outside world, as a negative, as a confinement, as a prison, we could also interpret it as a shield. That there is...
I think everyone has their own wall, and, the thing is, his got too big to the point where it's isolated. Like, just to beat this metaphor over the head.
Well, isn't that what we do, Geeky Gentlemen? We beat metaphors over your head.
Most personal walls, let other people jump over them, or at the very least climb over them.
Certain people.
This thing was impenetrable.
Yes.
And he just kept building it and building it. With every experience he had, he found a way to make it worse. And it just nosedived. And, the thing is, his wall grew as his popularity grew,
Yes.
And that's the What Shall We Do Now scene it's a song that I always like because it's not in the album, so I get to hear it very rarely. But I'm going to read the lyrics real quick because it's very short. What shall we use to fill the empty spaces where waves of hunger roar? Shall we set out across this sea of faces in search of more and more applause? Shall we buy a new guitar? Shall we drive a more powerful car? Shall we work straight through the night? Shall we get into fights, leave the lights on, drop bombs, do tours of the East, contract disease, bury bones, break up homes, send flowers by phone, take to drink, go to shrinks, give up meat, rarely sleep, keep people as pets, train dogs, race rats, fill the attic with cash, bury treasures, store up leisure, but never relax at all with our backs to the wall. That's something I find fascinating. He sees all of these things. Some of them are clearly only things like a rich person could do. Keep people as pets. Do tours of the East. It's these ideas of the more I work, the bigger the wall gets. It's the more popular he gets, the more he needs to close people off.
Yes.
As part of his, compulsion or disorder, whatever you want to call it.
If I may jump in real quick, because you just reminded me of something. What happens when most actors gain popularity, and most entertainers in general, they start to build their own personal wall. You start to see like much more safe interviews with these people. They start to be very careful about what they say, because if they say something, the press will run with it and can ruin their career. So it's something that is really kind of a reflection of what goes on in the real world, and the wall is definitely a visual metaphor for that, or a visual admission of it. Like, this is what entertainers do when they get so popular. They have to keep more and more people out just so they can keep this image of themselves without destroying it. But the thing is that one day you're going to build that wall too high, you're going to be cut off from the world, and it's going to collapse on top of you, and that's what happens to Pink.
Milan, you got anything?
You guys just said everything I wanted to say. Way to go.
Wow, it's just usually when I give you a chance to talk, you're like, yes, I must speak right now. I must take up the entire conversation for 15 minutes.
Half hour later, me and you're just like, dude, we gotta go.
No, half hour later, it's like, God damn it, monkeys do not fly helicopters.
But velociraptors do.
Yes. That's gonna be a thing now.
Velociraptors.
Milan, I'm gonna make you draw that eventually.
About that. Monkeys flying helicopters.
No, I said velociraptors.
Oh, velociraptors. I got that too. I got that covered, baby.
Anyway, we've talked about the wall a lot, and we're gonna get back to it eventually, but let's start talking about the final cut.
The final cut. My thoughts on it, What? Oh, my thoughts on it, it's basically a criticism of, the Thatcher Dumarong, you might have seen that word wrong, the Thatcher military fetish, and just, having other, countries build your weapons for you, and it's just a never-ending cycle of idiotic war. And it's basically a bunch of old people looking at a picture of their dead son because he went off to war.
Yeah, Bill, how about you?
Yes, I got a very similar thing from it. It's this older gentleman who is watching TV, and he's constantly reminded of the generation that spawned his son, who went off to war and died for his country, and he doesn't think that the country deserved his son's life. One thing I did notice, though, the final cut is a lot more of a traditional music video than The Wall is.
Oh, totally.
Like, it's a much, and I don't mean this to sound like it's so small and insignificant, because I mean, telling a story about a family who has lost their son and criticizing the culture that has spawned that's very interesting. But when you compare it to The Wall, when you watch it immediately afterwards, like I did, there's this great drop of scope. Like, just, it's not as complex and it's not as interesting, because it can be summed up just as Milan said it. It's all about criticizing the government and society, whereas there's all these psychological layers to The Wall that I don't think the final cut has.
Well, actually, that's the interesting thing, is you're only getting part of the final cut in this. You're not getting the entire album. It's like 3 or 4 songs, right?
Right.
And what I like about the final cut is not in this, because the final cut's very much the extension of the I lost my father thing.
Very much so, yeah.
This is why Roger Waters should never touch video again. Alright? The final cut looks like trash to me. There's only one interesting visual in the entire thing, That's all these famous, or infamous, if you will, world leaders in an asylum, right?
I love Hitler. He's like dancing around.
I'm going to get that audio clip right there and just use it against you. Like, if you ever run for president, that's what I'm using.
Oh, I would never run for president. If I run for president,
would.
If I ever run for president, Ian, I want you to find me and kill me.
Okay, anyway. But, like...
Challenge accepted. No, Ian, you should just be like, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Anyway, the only interesting visual is those people in that asylum. But in the album, and you get this in the movie, but in the album, during the song The Gunner's Dream, there's this really nice audio part where Roger Waters sings a line and it's almost screaming, and then the sax comes in, hits the same note, and Roger Waters fades out, but you cannot tell where he fades out and the sax is the only one there, right? And you get that in this, but this I think epitomizes the problem with the final cut as a whole. You get that, except there's nothing going on visually. He's literally getting up and walking into another room to pour himself a beer. And that's the biggest problem with the final cut, is it is deep as far as content, as far as what's going on in the lyrics and stuff. But Roger Waters hated the guys that did The Wall. He could not stand them. He had this huge creative control battle with them. And so he wrote the screenplay for the final cut, and his brother-in-law directed and shot it. And you can tell.
You know what it looked like to me?
What?
A late 80s soda commercial.
A little bit.
But not just the film stock, but there were like some very noticeable labels in there. There was some, there was some Guinness Black Lager in there. There was some recognizable band. There was some recognizable.
Oh, and I'm sure Coca-Cola enjoyed the endorsement in The Wall when the crazy guy was crawling around his apartment, building a fucking shrine and putting Coke cans inside his busted-out TV. Yeah. I'm sure they loved that endorsement.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. But this one, it looked like a really mediocre late 80s soda commercial, and not in a good way. Not like that was part of the commentary. No, it just feels like that's the camera they were able to use, and that's the quality of director they got.
Yeah, it's just like there's so much going on in the album itself, and what separates the final cut, and I know you guys haven't listened to it, so I'm trying not to talk too much about the albums, but what separates the final cut from the rest of Pink Floyd albums is very often in the other albums, the singer's voice is essentially another instrument. Mm-hmm. And it just goes along with whatever else the song is doing, right?
Right.
But in the final cut, the music reacts to the emotional content and the tone of voice that the singer is using, right?
Totally.
Because you can hear that in this, is it goes from quiet up. There's no middle ground in this song, in the final cut at all. There's no, I'm singing at this tone. It's either I'm singing down here, or I'm shouting it. I'm not even singing anymore. I am shouting. And this doesn't capture that visually on any level. It's got the interesting idea of the, world leaders in a mental institution. It's got interesting political commentary on how industrialism is stifling creativity. And I should tell you about that. The line isn't stuff all that, it's fuck all that.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, censorship, hooray.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's just, that's the final cut. I was so happy when I found out there was a video of it, and then I was so disappointed after I watched it.
It's not nearly to the level of The Wall. It's not, it's really not, in the way I describe The Wall as an experience, the final cut is basically just a music video.
Totally.
And
totally.
Obviously there are music videos that are experiences, for sure, but the final cut is a lot more of something like you'd see on MTV.
Well, this was put on in the early days of MTV, which is why it's 18 minutes long.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, it's a
Mm,
video EP,
Yeah.
which is weird.
mm,
I don't know.
yeah, it's a
It
very
does.
it's unremarkable. It's interesting. It does have interesting commentary, like Ian and Bill, you were talking
Yes,
about,
for
but
sure.
just it's shot on shitio basically, and
Yeah.
it lacks
Indeed.
the expansive psychological vision of the wall, which just kind of makes it like the lesser. It's like the wall's lesser impressive brother-in-law. Like, oh yeah, the wall's this big, great, pop star, and like the final cuts, like, yeah, I got a garage band, man. I'm gonna make it
Potentially
one day.
potential meta commentary on Roger Waters and his brother-in-law who directed
Oh,
the cut.
oh, totally, totally. It's like the shitty indie guy, like, yeah, man, you fall down, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Roger Waters, lyrically and creating a character, fantastic, right? You're not gonna have to argue with that. And he's pretty good at, as far as composing music goes, but he doesn't have the talent for stuff that sticks with you or stuff that feels as majestic that David Gilmour does.
Mm,
You can tell that if you ever listen to Radio Waves. It's a pretty good song lyrically, but the music's at best. Anyway, I find this is something that if you're a major Pink Floyd fan, I would recommend doing. Listen to the Wall, the Division. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Listen to the Final Cut, the Wall, the Division Bell, and then Wish You Were Here, all back to back, because they all tell the exact same story at different points. The Final Cut tells the story of the boy that lost his father and is dealing with the pain of that. The Wall tells the story of what happens to that boy and his band, as it were, but you don't really get his band. And I'm talking audio-wise. The Wall tells the story of what happens to that boy. The Division Bell tells the story of that band falling apart. Alright? And then Wish You Were Here is the idea of the band wishing that they had their guy back. Because Wish You Were Here was written as a tribute to Syd Barrett. And like I said, I was talking about the shaving the eyebrows thing and everything like that.
Yeah.
They were recording Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and Syd Barrett came into the studio like that after he'd already been kicked out of the band.
Ooh, scary.
Yeah. Really weird, trippy guy. Odd story about Syd Barrett. So they're trying to record this song, or trying to record this guitar riff, and he just couldn't friggin' get it, or trying to record it to another song, and he couldn't get it at all, right? He's just kept messing up. And the guy in the booth's getting frustrated. He's like, what do you want me to do to help you get this? And Syd says, reverse the track. So the guy plays the audio track backwards, figuring there's no way this is going to work. And Syd plays guitar to it. And then he's like, okay, now what? And he goes, all right, play my guitar backwards and play the track forwards. Synced up perfectly.
shit, nigga, that's crazy.
Isn't that weird? Just
Satan magic.
Yeah, just Syd's a very weird person that, sadly had a very tragic fall. They don't know for sure that he had schizophrenia, but from a lot of his behavior, it's very much assumed so. And they assume that it was the fame and the psychedelics that really made it get as bad as it did. And the band, as you can tell, really missed him, and they felt... And a lot of their work is in tribute to him, as it were.
It's sad when a genius dies.
Well, he didn't die until 2006.
Oh, well, when a genius kind of falls off the wagon, as it were.
That doesn't sound as good, does it, Milan?
No, it does not.
Well, he dies figuratively. He's dead to everyone except himself.
Very much true.
All right, so we got a little more time to round out here. All Alright, back to the wall again, because I just wanted to make sure we mentioned the final cut since we said we would be talking about it. And
Yeah.
we kind of hadn't brought it up much at all.
Ian, let me ask you this: in terms of the film, not the album, would you recommend it to people who love The Wall?
Would I recommend the final cut to people who love The Wall? If you really, really, really love The Wall, like if you have the movie, the Blu-ray, the VHS, the Betamax, you've got posters of it on your wall, you've got a red and black hammer.
Irony! The wall is on the wall.
Yeah. If you got a red and black hammer, which I want to know where you found one, if you walk down the street listening to it on your iPod every day, listen to the final cut first, several times. And if you really, really, really like the final cut, then go ahead and watch the film. Because it does add to it once you listen to the album tons of times.
Okay, that's an interesting recommendation.
If you love The Wall and you listen to the final cut and really enjoy it, then yes, watch the film, but it does not stand on its own at all.
The Gospel of Sid Part 2. I like it.
Hallelujah, brother. Hallelujah.
Willie is damn right. Excuse me.
I'm the one that's sick. Why are you the one that's coughing?
Because...
He does it to mock you. He does it to mock you.
I'm mocking your image, Ian.
Bill, you've been, like, coughing for the last, like, 3 weeks. I've been noticing that.
He's got throat cancer. Just saying.
No, I haven't started smoking yet. No, but, the reason is because I'm still getting over that bad cold I had last week. Because I was like, as I guys told you, as I told you guys, what the fuck is wrong with me? I was like on my deathbed last week, so that's why.
Oh, really? Damn, man.
Yeah.
Then did I catch something from you over the internet?
It's happened before. Like, I've talked to people who complain about being really sick, and I'm just like, yeah, we're not gonna. It's fucking impossible. And then I get sick. I'm just like, what?
Well,
that makes no sense. It's like a Doctor Who plot. It's like it's sickness going through the internet.
That actually wouldn't be a terrible idea for a science fiction film. Call it Virus.
Funny thing, I am immune. I am immune.
Starring an aging David Hasselhoff. Why?
I mean, if you get some good characters, you make, like, not the thing itself the entire focus of the movie, that could be a good science fiction movie.
Liam Neeson has to be the physical embodiment of the virus.
No, Bill, you're not taking this seriously.
Wait, we were taking this seriously?
I don't know. I think if you actually wrote, like, I think with the right script, that could work as a premise for a science fiction film.
If you gave me a really good explanation for why that was happening, sure. But otherwise...
No, just make it one of those sci-fi things where they never explain it. It's just the MacGuffin. I mean, not MacGuffin. It's just the conceit.
The funny thing is,
I would be disappointed if they didn't explain it, because it's like, that's such a weird thing. It's just like, how the fuck is that happening? But, I don't know.
The thing is, I am immune to your disgusting American internet germs.
Well, that's because our internet signals have to go all the way across the ocean. I mean, it's not like they're going to space first anyway, but...
No, it's just a straight line that goes straight over the ocean. It doesn't even go for space.
I was talking to the guy at the toy store about that. I was looking at their security feed, and I was like, "Oh, hey, there's like a 2-second delay." It's like, that's not half bad, since it has to go to space and back first.
Yeah, whenever I bitch about my phone being too slow, it's like, wait a minute, I'm holding a magic device in my hand. I'm gonna shut up.
You're basically holding a supercomputer.
My iPhone is basically the closest thing I'll ever get to a magic wand. Because I can just do anything with it. Like every time me and my friends have conversations and something comes up, I'm just like, wait, let me check my phone.
Yeah,
or as I say, let me check my wife.
You got a miniaturized fucking supercomputer in your front pocket.
Indeed.
We are living in a glorious age!
Indeed. You got a mother box, which is awesome. Jack Kirby was right.
Jack Kirby was right about everything.
Let's get back to the topic. We've talked about The Wall a lot, and there's a couple other things that I think are worth getting into, because we didn't really talk that much about the music. We talked almost entirely about the visuals and the character. Like, I'm just not speaking about the lyrics, just the tone and the style of the music. What'd you guys think of it? Any general thoughts?
I love the hell out of it. Nothing
Yeah.
else to say.
Well, yeah, I felt the same way. Like, it's not like, I've listened to Pink Floyd before. If there's a person out there who hasn't listened to Dark Side of the Moon, how are you a person? The film was definitely, it's very obvious that it's shot to fit the music, and I think that that's very beneficial. I think, some movies that have, a music score that was written while the movie was being shot or afterwards, oftentimes the music seems to be compensating for the film, and most times that works. Like in an action movie, that's what it should do. However, you look at something like The Wall, and the visuals are being made to accommodate the music, and I found that very interesting, and it led to a very interesting experience. But of course, I'm not going to try and criticize Pink Floyd because I have nothing negative to say about their style. It's of course classic rock, and I'm a big classic rock fan, so they've got my support.
Okay. What I liked about it is this is fairly different from most of Pink Floyd's music as far as style goes. In a lot of Pink Floyd albums, you'll hear kind of this blowing wind. It's most prominent in blowing wind that turns into the music, as it were. It's most prominent in Wish You Were Here, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. But in this, it hits you in the face and then stomps on your foot.
Ow.
No, just because, like, it hits you in the face, stomps on your foot, and then, like, whispers in your ear. Because it gets so loud and so just assaulting at certain points. Like that whole Nazi rally scene, that music's so bombastic and just, it's shocking you. And there's that scene at the beginning when the door's opening and the people are rioting. It's just loud and in your face. And there's, when the wall's being built with the What Shall We Do Now scene when I was talking about earlier, it's so abrasive and it hits you almost. But then there are other scenes like, not Mother, but whatever it is before that. Thin Ice, I think. It's so quiet and mellow, and there's that ooh kind of thing to it. And not only can I not sing, but my throat is strep because I had hiccups for several hours the other day. But there's, so I'm not gonna...
They very nearly killed him.
No. If I were ever... No.
We're lucky to have Ian here today, because he nearly died of hiccups.
No, Bill, if I were ever going to torture somebody, I would find out a way to give them hiccups for 6 hours straight.
You sick, evil bastard.
No, you have no idea.
The hiccups are the worst, I agree.
No, and there was nothing to do, because, like, at a certain point, you get to where you're like, oh, all these cures are just assholes on the internet trying to get you to do weird shit.
Not even the internet, just, like, fucking people in general. Just like, oh, I'll scare you, and that'll work. No, it fucking won't. Go away.
No, not even that. No. Like, there was one, like, hold your ears and drink a cup of water.
That's bullshit. I always try that, it never works.
Yeah, it's just so fucking weird and, like, these weird cures. But anyway, I was saying something. The music it's just very different in The Wall from the rest of their style, and I think that's very interesting. Like, they've always had that kind of crazy sound effects to fuck with your mind thing. Did I mention this last week, Bill? Or maybe I don't know. Fuck it, I'll bring it up again. In Dark Side of the Moon, there's a moment right in the Great Gig in the Sky where it's really, really quiet, but you'll hear someone say, if you can hear the sound of this whisper, you're dying.
You talked about that. I don't think we were recording it.
Yeah, there's a way to fuck with somebody's life.
And it's funny, when I was listening to Dark Side of the Moon for the first time, I was in a car, so
Yeah.
frightening.
Oh, yeah, especially with like the sirens and stuff.
Yeah. It was a very eerie experience. It was also night, and we were in the middle of the woods.
Okay, Bill, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go buy new headphones, or when you get your new headphones that are like all fantastic and stuff that you've been raving about,
Oh, I can't wait.
I want you to listen to the album Wish You Were Here, because you will have the most hilarious reaction ever.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I'm not going to tell you what it is, because if you know what it is, then it'll, like, just know something's going to happen. But anyway.
Mm.
I saw the wall as kind of well, you guys are probably gonna hate me for this, but you
We
guys
already do
being
Milan, so it's
normal.
okay.
No. You guys being normals. I bet you guys like sitting there going, "Whoa, this is so trippy." For me, it's like, "Oh wow, this makes complete and utter sense."
No, and that's, I
We
saw it
expected
as
that.
making complete sense.
Mm.
I mean, it's trippy, but that's something like I started to talk about. We kind of got off of it. The Wall, because its title track is Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, where, just to give myself some cred, where all the kids are saying they don't need any education. And I can't believe I said that in the correct grammar. We don't need no education. It gets this weird reputation of it's like for the slackers and for the stoners, you know? It gets this weird thing where people listen to it because they think it's about like tuning out and, you know, not putting any effort into life or weird shit like that. That makes sense?
Mm.
Yeah, it does.
It gets that weird reputation. That's not what it's about at all. It's about like the tragedy of someone going crazy and the pressures of fame and just the general fear of cutting yourself off from the world.
Yeah, if anything, I'm not saying it's like, oh, all those fucking slackers and stoners are all horrible people that will burn in hell, but it's almost like having that mindset leads to where Pink is at the end of the movie.
Not
And devoting
really,
your life,
because
devoting your life to it though.
I would disagree with that, because I'd say that the drugs definitely were part of what brought him to this. But at the same time, I don't think that it was done as a, like he was a slacker and that's why he failed. No, he worked
not at
his ass
all.
off to get famous. I mean, you don't get to that level of fame by sitting on your ass.
Right.
So I disagree with that interpretation, Bill.
totally, me too. I mean, he's a
Fuck
dude.
you guys
the guy-
then.
Okay.
we love you still, Bill. You can say fuck you all you want.
Here,
We'll
wait,
still love
hold
you.
on. I'll make Bill feel better. Bill, you know it's awesome. Godzilla. Yes, he is. Oh, he's just so...
Oh god, why don't I?
Yeah. Oh, Bill, I got something that will make you love me. Love me.
Nothing can make
Here
you
we-
make you
Oh,
love whatever.
Make you love me, dude.
Yeah,
I
that's
guarantee it.
that's the proper grammar. There you go.
Hold on, Bill, I swear to God, if this doesn't make you go, I love you, Milan, I don't know what else will. Check this out. I want to hear this recorded for prosperity. Hold on, there we go.
Oh no, what's going on here?
Okay, anyway, we'll get back to that later. Lon, what were you gonna say?
Basically, yeah, that's all I really got to say. The Wall is just this fascinating film and a wonderful exploration into the mind of a pop star, or at least what a pop star used to be until, you know, fucking corporations replaced him with bland, fucking lily-livered nothingnesses.
Yeah, until pop stars became bubblegum, and we still have these same issues, but now it's just completely narcissistic.
Yeah,
And
instead of actual, yeah, drugs used to make good music, but now it just makes shitty. It's all inverted.
All it does is take the one good thing about these pop stars that they're at least somewhat attractive and turn them into fucking Britney Spears.
Ugh, I hate it when non-talented people get famous.
Happens all the time these days.
Well, that's the thing. You don't have to have talent to be famous now because we have reality TV.
That's a dude.
The thing about our modern era of entertainment and such is that everybody has access to a camera and a microphone, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I love that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But at the same time, people who have no talent, who have nothing to say, get famous because they have nothing to say. Look at Jersey Shore. Look at the Kardashians. What the fuck is... Why do people watch them? They're like the most boring... I'm kind of answering my own question. But my point is that in modern times, these people get famous because they're able to get out to people who, for some reason, think they can relate to them, even though it's almost like their relatability is being forced on you. I'm sorry we're getting off on a tangent that
Bill,
really just relates to the wall.
May I quick? I think I've got the line to summarize your point. The pop stars get so famous because they are Play-Doh, and the people craft them into whatever they want them to be.
I know.
Yes, I would say that's accurate.
With guys like Jersey Shore and like these idiotic pop stars, you see the hipsters and the pseudo intellectuals like to watch them because it makes them feel smarter, and the idiots who actually relate to these people think like, hey, these people are morons like me, so maybe if I take a couple of tips from these people, I relate to them, so maybe I can be a pop star too, because I'm just as stupid and inane as these motherfuckers.
Yes.
So you got these two classes of people, the fucking pseudo-intellectuals, laughing at these people and like, oh, I'm so smarter than these guys. No, you're not. You're feeding them money by watching this show. This is why I killed Paris Hilton. I just stopped watching her. I completely put her out of my mind. She does not exist. And so eventually, me not thinking about her made her, career non-happen.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Milan. You just killed Paris Hilton.
Well, you have a great point.
Thank you, Milan. You killed Paris Hilton.
Well,
there we go.
He has a great point. The way that you get these people to stop being famous and all that, just to get them off the air,
you ignore them until they go away.
Exactly. They get famous because they get mentioned. The more YouTube videos, and all this that people make criticizing them and making fun of them, you're exposing them and you're making people interested in them, so they go check them out.
It's like it's the freak show. It's like the spreading the news about the freak show.
In a way, yes.
Reality TV, the modern day freak show?
Yeah, totally.
That's interesting.
I think in a context, sure.
It'd just be a great topic for a story, wouldn't it?
Yes, it's basically what the Joker said in the Killing Joke. It's all true. Ladies and gentlemen, look here, the worst freak of all, the average man. Physically unremarkable, intellectually impotent, and completely and utterly inane. That is the ultimate freak show.
Alright. Let's get back to the movie a little bit. We're getting close to wrapping up here. Milan, would you please type your topic for next week down in the bar so we know what it is and can approve it beforehand?
Yes, because that is something that we're doing now.
Okay.
Because I checked with Bill last week anyway. So, God, alright. I had so much to say, and then I got sick this week, and then I was like, fuck thinking.
And now Ian is turning into a member of the Jersey Shore.
Hey, yo, boy! You see my abs? You don't want to fuck with me.
I live to die.
It's
basically how their life works.
That was my, terrible, terrible impression of someone from Jersey.
It wasn't terrible. It was off, but it wasn't horrible.
Okay. Anyway. I don't know. Maybe if I had orange skin, it would have worked better.
What's with that? Like, no human being has
called-
orange skin.
No, it's a spray tan.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
Let's get off Jersey Shore. Ian, would you mind if I summarize my overall thoughts on The Wall?
sure, go ahead. While
Um,
Milan is talking in the chat.
Sure. Again, as I kind of said earlier, I really, really am glad I finally sat down and watched this. I enjoyed the hell out of it. It was a great experience. And I'm really glad I finally got to sit down and watch this very notorious film. That being said, I don't know if I'd jump right to rewatching it again. It was definitely a sort of experience where, again, I'm glad I experienced it, but I don't know if I want to experience it again soon. Maybe in like 2 years, if it comes up in a conversation and something sparks my interest again, I rewatch it, but I wouldn't just rewatch it just because I enjoyed it that much. But if you haven't seen it and you are a film buff, you're a music lover, you're a Pink Floyd fan, any of these things, you should definitely check it out because it is an experience and it is an experience worth having. It is a really well-made film. The camera angles are astounding. As an up-and-coming director, I was part of the appeal of this film was just the amazing camera shots and just, oh god, it was gorgeous. So watch it if for nothing else for that reason, but also watch it for some great music, a very interesting story, and a tragic look at a tragic character. So, I think that's my overall feelings on The Wall.
Yeah, and sorry, I kept trying to think, like I had a list in my head of things I wanted to talk about, and the one thing, we talked about the music, the other thing I really wanted to talk about is not only the quality of the animation, but how well we thought it blended with the live action stuff.
Oh, totally,
Because I
totally.
can't think of a lot of movies that do that. Like, you got your Who Framed Roger Rabbit where it's animation on screen, but that's clearly not the same thing at all.
Totally.
What would happen in that?
The difference
think
is that
The visual style kind of blends in with the, in tone at least, with the crazy, trippy, animated sequences.
I think there's a stark difference though, because Who Framed Roger Rabbit is they're not trying to hide that those are cartoons.
No, not at all, and I don't think that the Wall is either. They're
Right,
just
but
trying
there is definitely a transition from live action to animation, whereas the things in Roger Rabbit are almost always animated.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, is there another movie that does this as much? Like, I guess you could argue, like, Kill
Cool
Bill
World?
did it, but not to this extent.
First time we ever saw Superman on screen, but that didn't work well.
Oh, totally, that was awesome, and the Fleischer cartoons are amazing.
No, not the Fleischer cartoons. There's a Superman serial where the way they have him fly is the actor jumps up in the air and it turns into a cartoon.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
Which was hilarious.
Totally, man. Totally.
But, like, can you think of other, like, major successful things that did something like this?
Cool World?
I haven't seen that.
Not majorly successful. But even then, that was a lot more Roger Rabbit than it was The Wall.
Not really. It was actually a human character in an animated world. While
Yeah, but
Rob.
what Ian is trying to say is that we're trying to look for things that where live action seamlessly transition in animation, like actual thing, like the dove transitioning into an animated dove.
Yeah.
Like that's a live action character being inserted into an animated world. That's a lot
And
closer.
that's actually one of the few things that I wish this movie had used in CGI, just because if they not like the animation, but if the dove itself, when it was like in real life, had been a really well done, like photorealistic CGI dove, and when it flew up into the air, you could have had the exact, like you could have done it in a frame that the dove changed into an animated dove, if you get me, because you could have put the dove's wings in an exact location.
But the thing,
Which I don't know why they didn't do that with the animation. Why they didn't just stop the film on a still frame, draw the dove, and then, do the fade, but whatever.
I think the thing about the dove scene, when it explodes and the weird hawk, the large iron hawk comes into being, I think it really does reference a Disney Fantasia clip, not clip,
I
but
know Disney's
part.
done it a couple times now that I think
Not
about
not
it.
even that.
Enchanted, Bill?
No, not the
Would
music. Like
Enchanted count?
no, the music cues and the large black, ominous creature coming out of a place of desolation is basically the night on Bald Mountain in the first Fantasia movie. You know, when the devil basically erupts from the mountain. The same kind
No,
of music.
but Milan, we're talking about live action blending with animation, not
I would
all.
say that Ian, you mentioned Enchanted.
Yeah.
I would say
Not as much, but clearly more than Kill Bill.
yeah. The thing is that the transition happens off screen. Like
True.
when they're animated characters, they pop up through a sewer grate and then they're all of a sudden live action. That being said, I mean the models match up rather well. Like the makeup and the costumes on the characters, they look like live action cartoons, which I thought was really well done. But it's not so much transition as it is like matching.
Yeah.
It's kind of like putting someone. It's kind of like putting a comic book character on screen. Like putting Superman on screen.
Yeah.
Totally.
I don't know. I'm sitting here puzzling about this one because that's something that occurred to me while I was watching it this week. Is there's just I know Kill Bill did it. Like there was no like one thing that transitioned into it happening, but you still had that like it was just in the middle of the story and it just cuts animated sequence. Because I'm fucking Quentin Tarantino and I do what I please.
Oh god, I have an example.
What?
Captain N, the Game Master.
Oh, that is amazing. That is the pinnacle of humanity's creative endeavors.
Have you even seen it, Milan?
It happens on screen. The live action kid turns into a cartoon figure and looks about 4 years older.
No, I've never seen it, but I feel like that's something Milan would say about something that he knows is bad, but he's never watched.
Actually, the sad thing about this, I did watch it in Moscow, and yes, it was dubbed by that same fucking apathetic Russian guy.
Well,
and
when I first would actually work for what's her name, Mother Brain or something, the Mega Man villain. It actually works for her because she has that kind of drag queen voice.
No, there wasn't a drag queen voice. It's just the most, dude. I told you about this. The most monotone, bored Russian guy ever, and it just and when I first saw that transition, my little Russian mind was blown. This is the beauty of America. And my granny pointed to that. My granny was watching that with me. She pointed at that, and she used to be a drunk. She basically said, "This, my dear boy, this is the beauty of capitalism." And then I cried.
She's not.
No.
She's not wrong.
No, Milan saw that. He was just like, over in America, I can become a cartoon character.
I thought that actually.
Alongside a homosexual Simon Belmont. I must go to America.
That is. You just basically said my thoughts, but in English.
Oh, that's funny. Anyway, but like the animation was. I'm not gonna talk too much about this, but the animation was incredibly well handled in The Wall.
Oh, it was amazing. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it holds up today fantastically. This is Disney level animation in my opinion.
Funny enough, I think it's like overseas Disney. But the weird thing is, we don't really have that same level of just incredibly good animation. Everything's CGI now, which is kind of sad. And even Disney's trial to get back in that drawn animation style with Princess and the Frog, it wasn't like fantastic animation. It was good. It was Disney good, but not to the same level that this is. That is just completely, just beautifully, seamlessly, amazingly psychedelic.
And I mean, when I say Disney good, I mean in quality, not in content at all.
Well,
I want to see the Disney film that has shit like this in it.
I want to see the Disney version of The Wall.
Should I buy a new guitar? What to do? Oh, my squirrel
with
friend.
Mickey Mouse as Pink.
Okay, who's Goofy?
Goofy is definitely the teacher.
Okay, who's Pluto?
Pluto's the mother.
Pluto
the
is
mother.
Pluto is the groupie. No.
Yes, Pluto is the groupie. I'm just gonna mention this just because we've never mentioned Mickey on the show before. Why is it that Mickey owns a dog, yet Goofy is a dog?
I'm sure it's been brought up before that there's kind of a weird, like, slavery.
Oh no, people bring it up all the time, but I just like it. I was like, I'm pretty sure Mickey's like kind of a slave, or like it's retarded.
No, I think it has to do. I think it has to do with the evolutional nature of the Disney people, the Disney, anthropomorphic animal people.
Oh, so like Pluto is like from the genius of dog that's in transition to the centaur.
Exactly. It's basically the chimpanzee of the Mickey Mouse world. See, if we have a chimpanzee as a pet,
it's just a really fucked up experiment gone wrong.
No. Basically, I see Pluto.
Then how's his son there, and like the fucking weird guy with the cheese in the movie?
Oh, God.
What? The cheese?
You never saw the Goofy movie?
Oh shit, that's right. Fuck. That's right. Jesus. Anyway, Pluto's obvious, human nature aside, I think it's a great point to, we want to give it your final thoughts, and we can just finish this up, because it's kind of derailed into, judging the, evolutionary standard of Mickey Mouse cartoons.
My final thoughts on The Wall really come down to the fact that it is, hands down, one of the best musicals in existence.
It's a rock opera. It's a rock opera.
Yeah, but it's a musical. Musical being defined as story in which all the actors sing.
Movie. None of the actors actually sing.
Movie in which all the actors are singing, or the story is told through music. How's that?
Oh, okay. That's better.
There's a general definition to work with my terms. It is a rock opera, but I consider it a musical just because I'm a theater guy.
Of course you are.
Well, duh. Anyway, it is one of the best musicals ever, and my biggest problem with musicals is they don't know how to give themselves a tone. You can't tell a normal story in a musical, because then the music becomes intrusive. You can't have every musical out there be a comedy. You need to find a way to make your story work around the fact that parts of it are being told through music. And this does it so much so that the entire story is being told through music. You can do this movie, you could do The Wall on stage, to an extent. I mean, you get a wall as your constant piece of set behind him, and use projectors to do your cartoons. Or, well, animation, let's give it a bit more class. The idea that someone's going mad and you get to see that descent, that spiral around the drain, is terrifying and kind of keeps you up for nights if you really, really stick on it for too long. As you said, Milan, it's incredibly realistic because it's based on real events, and it's incredibly believable because everything in this is based on a real person. Roger Waters is fantastic at creating a character, and as we saw by the final cut, not at writing a screenplay.
Indeed.
That's my final thoughts on it. It is a fantastic piece of art, and it embraces all three of the major mediums
quite beautifully.
In as far as major mediums in today's world: film, music, and animation.
All we need is the Wall comic.
I think there's something out there, probably.
It's called Grant Morrison.
Oh, imagine Grant Morrison writing Pink Floyd.
He did.
No, that wouldn't happen. They never have ever done a song someone else wrote unless it was like a cover.
Well, what if it was like a comic, like about Pink Floyd?
It wouldn't be that interesting because I don't like bio comics.
What if it was in the universe of The Wall?
Well, there's no Pink Floyd in The Wall as a band.
The character,
It's a person.
I think Pink's story is kind of done.
Fine.
I'm just trying to think, like, I mean, he could maybe be... Alright, here's what I would read. I want to see Grant Morrison take...
Turn Pink into a superhero.
No, I want to see Grant Morrison take the album A Saucer Full of Secrets and use that, and only the lyrics in that, as the dialogue in a graphic novel. The dialogue or narration in a graphic novel. Like, only the lyrics that show up in that is what he's allowed to use.
Okay, that's cool.
You think you could do it, Milan?
Once more, we're on Grant Morrison's dick.
Once more, this is just the Grant Morrison podcast, fellatio club.
That's what Geeky Gentleman is. It's just the Grant Morrison dick sucking show.
Totally.
That should be our new subtitle.
Nope.
Nope.
No, I should just change the intro. Gentlemen, it is time once again to suck Grant Morrison's dick.
Both figuratively and very soon, physically. And the room just got so uncomfortable.
And if you're there listening to this
Grant
on your headphones and you just suddenly felt dirty,
Grant Morrison's watching this podcast.
Grant Morrison's just like, wonder what the internet has for me today.
And it just
Oh, I like The Wall. I'm gonna listen to this.
What does the internet have for Grant Morrison today? Oh my. Oh my.
I just do a bunch of fucking drugs and acid and shit and then write it all down. People fucking pay me for it. So
cool. Yeah, let me do this later. Oh, cool, the fucking Geeky Gentleman. This guy's might be my favorite podcast. Let's see. He's a fan, like, all right, I love it. Oh, they made a new episode. All right, then. Oh. And he listens to the end of this episode and is like, oh, God, I'm so fucking flattered.
I'm gonna call this chap Ian Headington. See if he'll fulfill his offer.
Bill, shut the fuck up and let Milan do more Grant Morrison listening to Geeky Gentleman.
Oh, crap. Oh, like, oh, Jesus crap, man. This is fantastic. Oh, man, I've never heard anybody just want to suck my dick before without paying. Oh, it's amazing. It's
Wait,
great.
why are people paying him to suck his dick?
Okay.
But Grant Morrison.
I think that's the end of this video. I think that's where we've ended this video on.
I concur.
Milan, what are we discussing next week?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing the cross-pollination of genres in pop culture.
Yeah, and just to say, like, I had you type that down in the comments here, and you cannot spell for shit. I'm gonna read this to everybody. The cross POLANASHION of JUNRAS.
Milan, when I saw that, I thought we were gonna like talk about some like confusing weird shit. Like I was like, are we gonna talk about like science and shit? Or like
it sounded like
or like
it sounded
Scientology.
like I asked you and you just made some shit up.
We're gonna talk about the shit that I just came up with. No, I thought we were gonna talk about like the theories of Scientology.
Yeah. Yeah, but that is an exciting thing, the cross-pollination of genres. So just like some quick examples that I wrote to make sure I understood the idea. That'd be like art popping up in film or music in comics. Like Watchmen did that a little bit where
Totally.
You saw some Iggy Pop in the background. And that's a fantastic idea for a topic, and I'm really excited to get into that one.
Me too.
Just to let you guys know, we're still accepting pre-recorded Skype-ins, and we're also taking live Skype-ins, so add me on Skype, Sid Part 2, and we'll work it out. Very excited for that topic. But until next time, we're Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
See you next time.